Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Phaedra here, and today we're going to talk about how our farm, how we're trying to farm in an environmentally conscious way. We know that it's not always possible to be completely environmentally conscious. It's literally just what we're doing here, what we're trying to do and what we hope to do. I just thought what we might start off with is a little bit of a background about us. So I'll start with Moroni. He didn't want to be in the video because he wants to go out and get some work done. But he is an agricultural engineer from Mexico. He specialised in working with rural communities that didn't have a lot. So he's got a lot of experience in identifying what resources are available and how to use them. So he learnt how to farm in ways that were versatile, mainly hand powered or sort of minimal machinery, and utilising what was available in the community. He's very resourceful, which is really good and has been so handy for us. He also comes from a family who owned a nursery as he was growing up, like a plant nursery, and his father was also the Minister of Agriculture in the state of Puebla in Mexico, and he's recently retired from working, so he's no longer doing that. But his family's background in farming and agriculture is fairly substantial, so it's pretty handy that he has that background. For myself, my background is nowhere near as extensive. I've grown vegetables mainly and not on any large scale. I think my earliest sort of memory is around maybe 10 or 11, and I had a veggie patch with my grandfather up in the block behind our house, and I really loved it, and I've always loved plants. And it's so nice that Moroni and I have come together now. We love gardening. We just love it so much. We could do it all day. So, when we can do it all day, we do it all day. We just love it. And I'll show you a picture of when Moroni and I met online. And this is actually the picture that sparked my attention when I was flicking through. It was a Christian dating app, and you had to flick through like Tinder. So that was the picture that caught my attention, and I messaged him. And then a little later on, he must have decided he liked the look of me, and he messaged me. So that's a pretty cool story. So I'll start off on our farm. We have no large equipment, and there's sort of two reasons for that. For one, we're not really big enough to warrant the cost of it, and we don't have enough money to buy anything really to help us. So we're farming completely by hand, which the flip side of that is it's actually quite gentle on the land. And Moroni worries about the compaction of soil, particularly as we're setting up our farm, and we don't particularly know exactly where everything's going to end up. So he doesn't want to end up in a position where he's compacted the soil so much that it takes a lot for that to be fixed. And we did have a tractor come in, and he was even worried about that, ploughing up our field. So in the future, as we expand and get bigger, we probably will move into some equipment, but probably some small equipment. I follow a company in Australia that has really small machines, and I think they're really nice. So we'll probably look into that at some point, but I don't know when. The next thing I want to talk about is irrigation. We had a consultant come out and have a look at our property and make some recommendations about what they think is probably best for us. And it turns out that the best way for us is to use the dripper tape, or the dripper lines, whatever they're called, but to actually gravity feed it. We have a hill just to the side of me, and it's got a tank up on it. And he's going to go back and do some calculations about how doable that is, but he thinks we can set up 3 different zones and gravity feed it for 8 hours for each zone. And then that'll adequately water the plants, which for us is actually really good, because to have that slow released water, we're not wasting water, it's actually absorbing into the ground. And at the same time, in the heat of the summer, we can run the plot that's in the most sun and keep our plants really thriving, because we do get some heat waves. So that's going to be, we're excited about that, but it's probably a topic for another video because we're only just getting started on that. The next thing is chemical substances. We don't use anything on our land that can harm the soils, waterways, insects, or the bees. And to us, that is really, really important. We don't want to damage our land or anything that is a part of this land. There's different ways to manage insects, and Moroni's learnt a lot about that from Mexico. And as we kind of, we haven't actually had many problems yet because I don't think the insects know that we're here yet. But from experience, I know when I've moved a plot in the past, by the second year, they all know we're there. So we're bracing ourselves. I'll do probably a video on some of those pest management practices that he uses down the track once we've got some material on that. I know with aphids, sometimes people buy ladybugs. And yes, you can actually buy ladybugs and they will come and eat the aphids. The problem with that is the ladybugs have a tendency to fly away when you bring them to your property. You can also buy the larvae too though. But the thing is, if you eradicate all your aphids, there is going to be nothing to attract your ladybugs. So what I've done in the past is I've actually, you know, once a crop or a section of my garden or a plant has become covered in aphids, I've actually left it because they are attracting the aphids and it's keeping it off my other plants. So we'll see how this goes, but we won't be using any pesticides or herbicides, anything that is going to harm our land or our water, our insects, or the animals at all. Like, we just want to look after our land. All of our plant waste is composted, and we've got this compost bin. Well, it's not a bin, it's like an area. It's just surrounded by straw bales, and it just composts in. And this one is pretty well finished, and we need to start a new one and let this one rot down. The other thing was when I set up that grow tunnel in another video, that was actually a form of composting. We packed that bed full of green matter and manure, and we had some vegetable scraps and stuff, covered it in black plastic, and that's now our seed raising tunnel. So there's a few ways to do it. We've also direct composted straight into garden beds as well, and we did that in the beds before we put the dahlias in and let that rot down, and everything that grows in those beds grows really good. But you do, I guess, have to have the space to do that because you've got to let those beds sit for a little while before you can plant in them. But yep, everything, we operate with composting here. Something else is, and this does tie into environmentally conscious farming, is windbreaks. And there's a whole heap about it on the internet. I actually studied a few modules at TAFE about windbreaks as well. And we are just so fortunate on this property that we have natural windbreaks. We've actually got a 360-degree coverage of gum trees and really tall trees. And sometimes windbreaks can actually cause what's called turbulence, and it can actually increase the airflow in a certain area and really mess things up. And we've just been so lucky that these natural windbreaks have not caused any turbulence for us in our growing area. But if you want to look up more about windbreaks, just Google it. There's also a document I'm going to link in the description of this video. It's from the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries. They've done a paper on it. There's heaps of information in this document, and I only just discovered it, but the windbreak information is really good. So I'll link that below. Discussing wind now leads us to flower mesh. Last season we trialled metal mesh, like fencing wire that we'd kind of hooped over the bed and let plants grow through, and it did work really well. I mean, it works the same as flower mesh, but on the scale that we're now growing, we're increasing by like 5 times what we did last season. It's just not manageable anymore. And this is sort of what I'm talking about when I say some farms, you just can't be 100% environmentally sustainable. Well, you can be, but it comes at a cost, and we don't have the time or the storage space, or at this point even the money to buy that amount of metal wire. So we've purchased 1,000 metres of flower mesh, and can you believe that there's 1,000 metres of flower mesh in this roll? But there apparently is. Hello. He's doing some gardening. Do you want to come and say hello? But fix your hair. I gave him a haircut. I gave him a modern day mullet.
Is it thick now?
Yeah, because he needed to be initiated into the Australian.
Culture.
Show him your. He hasn't done it today yet, but turn around and show him the side. You see this?
Like this?
Yeah. At church yesterday, we couldn't work out if people were liking it or if they were making fun of him. We don't know, but we think the value of a mullet is probably you're going to get made fun of anyway.
What do you send out?
We like it though. Do you like it?
Yeah.
It looks cool.
It's free.
So we're talking about the environmental practices of our farm.
Okay.
And I've
important
showed them pictures of you in Mexico and the picture of you planting the corn that got my attention.
Okay.
What photo of me got your attention?
All of them.
Oh, well, only the corn one for him. Just jokes.
Well, that corn is important.
It is important.
Mexico is very important.
It is. And I was just talking about how your family kind of have this history of farming, you know, with your parents, nursery, and then your father was the Minister of Agriculture. So it's in his blood.
Yeah.
And his sister now has a business over in Mexico. She runs a big venue for weddings, and one of the massive draw cards of it is the beautiful garden there.
Yeah, the open garden.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and it's good, the climate over there. They have flowers
Yeah.
whole year round.
Whereas
so.
Moroni's having to learn how to do flowers here.
Yeah.
And a little bit off topic, the only way we could grow all year is to have heated hothouses, and we're not prepared to pay for the electricity for that. So until we can set up fully on solar for heated hothouses, that is a dream of the future.
Well, we will get there.
We will. That's in our 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Well, you were hoping for earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, sometimes things move faster than we think, and we probably will get there before. Who knows?
Yeah.
I can see that it could move before than later.
Yeah, I feel like things could take off pretty fast for us.
Yeah.
We've got things in the works at the moment, but we'll tell you about that later.
All right.
Do you want to be in the rest of the video or no?
Oh, I have stuff to
Okay.
do.
No, he's out of here. He doesn't like being on camera. Anyway, what was I talking about? No, I can't remember. Oh, the wire mesh. I think we're done on that. It's anyway, you know our reasons for why we're not doing that. Okay, so now we'll move on to, so that's sort of a little bit about our farming practices. Now the actual flower production, I don't know what you'd call it. So putting together the flowers. The first thing is, and I've done a video on this, is we don't use floral foam. I did use it a couple of times right in the beginning, but I just never felt good about it. And I did that video, I did the research about it, and I just don't want to use it. Maybe there'd be a time in the future where I have to, but it's really something I want to steer clear of. And we use the agri wool. We really don't use much of any of it at all, to be honest. We just focus on the fresh bouquets. But I do have a couple of weddings coming up. One of them, there'll be no need for anything. The other, I'm not quite sure just yet. So check out that video if you want to know more. There's some real meanie comments too from people. But anyway, no, we don't use rubber bands. I never had actually thought about this, and then someone in one of the comments, I think in a video, had said that they don't use rubber bands, and sometimes they have customers who return the rubber bands to them if they do use it. And it made me think this is one of those little things like drinking straws that is small, but it makes a big impact. And I've now kind of got good at putting together a bouquet where I don't have to worry about it. I just use like the jute twine string stuff, and it's completely compostable. Compostable. I think that's the word. Completely compostable. Sounds ridiculous. Yeah, and I've got good at just, I sometimes can even just wrap the bouquet with the paper and then the string on the outside of the paper. And then when the people get it home, they just can open it up, and then the flowers are ready to put in the vase, and they can compost the contents or reuse it or do whatever they want with it. And then of course the wrap, we don't use Cello Wrap. We use compostable and biodegradable paper wrap. and I will link the place that I buy that from in the in the description of the video. And we just feel good about it. And sometimes I even buy those rolls of brown paper at Officeworks, and it actually holds up really well in water. The last thing I can think of is the flower buckets. We use the old square food tubs. We find them really good. They don't tip over. They're a good size to fit one bouquet in. They travel really well. They're free because you just pick them up from food places. And I found out as well that some retailers, they just throw out their buckets, their flower buckets. Like, what a waste. So I guess if you're looking for some flower buckets, you can go and ask some of those retailers, the big ones, I don't want to say their name, but the big ones, if they've got some out the back that you can have. But we prefer the square ones rather than the round ones. And maybe that'll change down the track, but for now we like those square ones. So that's it for this part of the video. Let me know if you found this helpful, if you've got other ideas for us here on the farm or ways we can improve or things that you're doing. We would love to know. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to our channel. I'm almost at 200 and I reckon that's amazing. Thank you so much. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.